my channel. It is a rainy, blustery old day here in Nova Scotia. You guys will probably end up hearing a little bit of the wind, if not the rain, throughout filming this, but I figured it was a perfect excuse to stay in and get a little bit more recorded since I'm feeling super inspired and motivated right now. So I make this list on my phone of notes for things that I want to talk about in videos, different ideas for my videos, and as I was going through this one the other day, I actually stumbled across a note. I'm going to read it to you because this is how my brain works, but obviously this will be what today's video is. It says, go back to puppy Insta post for what the management said when they let me go from Sustain. Don't use names, but showcase some shitty situations and how to make the best of them, aka going and getting certified to be more qualified for better company in the future. And it also made me realize, I know I've talked about wanting to get into some of my history and the different jobs that I've done, and I think you guys know that right now I am a maintenance planner, but I'm quite sure I never got into how that even came to be or what that actually is. So today is going to be a little story time, I suppose it would be, and kind of the moral of this story is that sometimes rejection really does lead to the best fucking paths forward. So today I'm going to start off with how I got into being a maintenance planner. So you guys know I was a millwright for about a decade. It was about 10 years and bounced around from job to job, especially after I started out west and the price of oil went down big time. I ended up getting laid off from the job that I spent most of my career in the oil field in, doing new construction. And so again, kind of hard to find work. It was really competitive at that time. I wasn't in a great home situation, we'll put it diplomatically, and so it actually restricted a lot of the jobs that I could do or I was comfortable taking. So anyway, after lots of short contracts on shutdowns and things like that, I actually got an email from a headhunter back in Nova Scotia. I was living in BC at this point, but I got an email from a headhunter back in Nova Scotia saying that there was this new opportunity that they thought I would be a great fit for and would I be interested in interviewing. So I obviously was interested in interviewing because I needed a job, and even if it was back in Nova Scotia, that's where all my family was, that's where my friends were. I was miserable in BC anyway, so I figured might as well just fucking go for it. The worst that's gonna happen is I don't like the job and then I keep looking for something that's fly in, fly out west. So it ended up being this super cool company. So this is not me knocking this company by any means, and where I said don't use names, I don't even remember these guys' names after the last several years anyway. But this company is called Sustain, so it was based out of Chester in Nova Scotia. Such a fucking cool premise. So what they wanted to do was basically take garbage and turn it into biofuels. So they were taking the recycling, predominantly the recycling, and through their process they were actually able to refine garbage into, I think they were using kerosene, and this whole plant was actually run off of their synthetic kerosene that we had been creating there, and they wanted to make pellets. They were also making diesel, super cool. So they were making synthetic biofuels out of garbage. So I was instantly smitten with the idea of this company. I really liked what they were trying to do. And then another thing that super attracted me to it was that part of the interview process was actually taking a personality quiz. And so I'd never heard of that before in an interview process, and I love that to this day. I wish more companies would do that, but I actually had to take a personality test to see A, whether my personality type meshed with the people that they already had in place, and then B, if my personality type was even a good suit for the role that I was interviewing for. So I take this personality test. I was obviously a good fit. I was offered a contract at this company, and so I ended up having to move back to Nova Scotia. I did that a couple times in between moving to BC the first time in 2016, and it's obviously where I'm happily residing now as the rain falls and life is good. So I packed up my stuff, I moved back across the country, started this job, and my role was actually lead maintenance technician. So it was still kind of in a startup phase. They were just finishing construction and getting ready to go into actual production. And so I was the sole mechanic, or millwright technically, that was going to be taking over the commissioning and then the startup process. And so this worked for me because I'd already done a couple commissioning gigs when I was out west. I had a good idea of what they were looking to do, and more than anything, it was a lot of research for this role, which I loved. So to start off, it was me and one engineer. That was literally it, just me and a power engineer, and we ended up having to go through the whole plant trying to basically walk down all the systems, the conveyors, the lines, the heaters, to see like how it came out of construction, what was left to do, getting like everything kind of dialed in, and then getting ready for startup. And so part of my job, I thought, was basically just going to be going through doing the startup for these systems. And when I went in and asked, okay, cool, like where are the manuals, like where's any information that I can get, where are the specs on everything, they actually had nothing available, which was kind of shocking to me. And so they were using this engineering firm out of Italy, and that was this like amazing inventor that came up with these like giant ovens that they had, basically these augers that would move the recycling through, kind of melt it down, get rid of whatever they didn't want, and leave us with the product that we did want to create this biofuel. But as I was going through some of our walk downs initially, I realized like we didn't even have grease fittings on some of the augers. So it was kind of cool when the engineer actually came to site to do a visit or whatever to see how his like creations were going. I started bringing up these like little deficiencies, basically being like, hey, okay, I love this, but like why don't we have this here? Or if this is part of like normal like preventative maintenance or even like preservation maintenance, like we're missing this, what will we do for that? Do you have manuals? What are the specs? So my job ended up being a lot more entailed than I originally thought it was going to be. Like I was definitely doing way more of a workload than I'd signed on for, but I was really enjoying kind of that like setting up process and having to figure out and kind of plan like what did we need to do next? What were we missing? What is it going to look like when this starts up? What like just kind of all that background troubleshooting, like commissioning stuff. So fast forward 3 weeks. I lasted 3 weeks with this fucking company. I kind of butted heads with the GM in the first place. In my like in-person interview, I don't think he was overly impressed with me. I got the vibe that it was kind of like a sexist thing. Super normal. We all know this. For whatever reason, they ended up going forward with me anyway, based on credentials, blah, blah, blah. So I was having kind of a rough go with the GM. My production manager was phenomenal, super, super receptive. Awesome with any like feedback that I was giving him, super helpful in trying to get me the documentation I needed in order to get us set up properly for the commissioning phase. And so I came into work on a Monday, and that morning they actually said, okay, sorry, we're letting you go. And so kind of like blindsided because I just had the weekend off and was kind of getting all excited to come in and figure out what the next step was going to be, and then was taken aside and let go. And so this is where the puppy Instapost comes in. So I'll read you the caption from that one. I'd forgotten how much that fucking sucked, man. So this was February 12th of 2019. So just about 4 years ago. Just about 4 years ago. How is that even possible? But I wrote, I've been having a super shitty week, month, year, and I'm in the midst of an existential crisis. Joke's on me because I'm still going through an existential crisis. I got let go from my new job last week because the GM and CEO decided they didn't feel I could handle the complexity of the role, and they wanted to take a different approach with somebody who has a broader range of experience and is older. What a kick in the dick that was, man. They said that they didn't realize what the role was actually going to entail, and instead of talking to me about it, they had a meeting on the weekend and decided I was no longer the candidate for them. Fun fact, I literally was doing 3 times the workload and jobs not included in my hiring. I signed a contract for it and handled it quite well as far as I and my production manager were concerned. And I don't think they appreciated my suggestions on the deficiencies they're experiencing. They definitely did not. Either way, my ego took a hard kick. Also, one of my car speakers blew. I need my windshield replaced. My EI ran out, and I'm turning 30, and I feel like I've wasted 3 decades so far. But stuffing their puppies into their little parkas and making Des and Lila wear their winter booties. Oh yeah. Oh my god, they were so cute. I am going to put pictures in here because tell me they're not the cutest fucking things ever. Yeah, and making Des and Lila wear their winter booties for our walk last night cheered me right up. Des ended up loving them on the actual walk, but Lila hasn't been convinced that they're worth the warm tootsies. It was definitely worth the 15-minute struggle to get them on for the pure hilarity of watching them trot around. So now that I'm like going back through that, I do remember how shitty that time period was. Because I was in a really garbage relationship. I wasn't loving where I was living out west. I was having a really hard time with work, period. And then, like I said, to kind of pick up, move my stuff back to Halifax so that I could work this new job that sounded super exciting, and then to be let go because they were looking for somebody older with a broader range of experience. Like, I get it to a certain degree, but at the same time, I think my frustrations at that point were, how did you not know what this role was going to entail? Like, you hired me on to be lead. I'm giving you like the deficiencies that we're going to have. I'm giving you the challenges that we're going to come up against. I'm doing all the research and I'm trying to help us get set up. And then after a couple weeks, you basically tell me that you want somebody who's older, you want somebody with more experience, and I wasn't the right candidate. And while they were obviously well within their rights, it was definitely a lot more than I had signed up for, and I could see how they would definitely benefit from somebody that did have the experience. It fucking sucked. Oh my god, I remember how miserable I was. I felt so down on myself. But like, I'm one of those people where if things aren't going right or something doesn't work, I feel like there's always a lesson to be learned, and I really do think that everything kind of happens for a reason, even if you don't see it at the time. So after I was super dejected from this like rejection, and I had my little wah time I think I was entitled to, I ended up thinking, okay, well, what would I need to do in order to be successful for this kind of job? Like, to be the ideal candidate, what would benefit me? Like, what kind of background would I need to have, and what things would I need to know to be successful? I ended up looking into all of like the roles and responsibilities I had, discovered that it was basically being a maintenance planner, and then it kind of made me want to figure out how to become a proper certified maintenance planner. So I did a ton of research online. I know that there were some universities locally that did offer courses for maintenance planning, but I came across this awesome course that was like a long distance one by this Australian company called Lifetime Reliability Solutions. And anybody who knows Australia, especially in like the mining, knows they are top notch. Like, they have everything dialed in. They are for sure the go-to for just about everything. And a lot of our practices in Canada are actually modeled on Australian principles and Australian like processes. So I said, fuck it. I took full advantage of the unemployed time in my life. And I spent 3 months basically treating this course like it was my full-time job. So I did like 10 hours a day on it, like 5-6 days a week. I went balls out. So the course that I ended up taking is called World-Class Maintenance Planning and Scheduling for Asset Reliability. They basically have 10 modules. So the first 6 modules are for maintenance planning itself, and then the next 4 modules are for maintenance scheduling. I finished the courses in record time because obviously it was treating it like a full-time job, and normally the people that enroll in these courses are working while they're doing it too. So I had like the full luxury of time and being able to funnel myself into it. I did really, really well on the course because it is stuff that interests me. I think I've said this before. I will guaranteed say it again. The thing I love most about being a maintenance planner is that it feels like troubleshooting to me. So I get to be kind of that like background liaison between the guys on the tools and the supervision, and then like the upper management, and trying to give the upper management the result that they want, which is equipment reliability, like asset reliability and production, but also being able to support the guys that actually have to do the work in order for that to happen. So super, super interesting. I will plug a link to the course if anybody is actually interested. With my current company right now, we've got a bunch of people who are new to planning, like literally have come off of a floor or have come off from being a supervisor, and so they just genuinely don't know what maintenance planning is supposed to be. And so I actually suggested, when they were asking about like training, what we could do to get everybody on the same page and get everybody doing fucking proper planning, I suggested the course that I took because it was worth every penny. So my company is actually now putting all of our maintenance planners and our schedulers through this course. They're paying for it too. Like I said, it was worth every penny out of my own pocket, but I think it's so dope that people are able to get that course and that education and have it paid for. So again, I will link below if anybody's thinking about getting into that, or it sounds like it's something that might be interesting to you. I love what I do. I genuinely love what I do. Like, I have days obviously where I miss swinging wrenches, but for the most part, there's so much job satisfaction that comes from being able to put together a good plan, or being able to, you know, implement these little baby step changes in my company now, which I guess is still technically like a startup, but being able to lay that foundation so that as the years go on, like, we are going to have awesome dialed in maintenance plans. We're going to have work packages to give out to people. We're going to know what our critical spares need to be. We're going to know like what intervals we need to do. We're going to be able to get to a point where we can figure out that mean time between failures so that we can get ahead of a lot of our breakdowns. I love what I do. I love planning. I think it's so fucking cool. But moral of this long-winded story, I guess, is that had it not been for me taking a chance on that job with Sustain, who I really do hope is successful, like I really do hope that they found somebody who was a good fit for that role, and I really hope that they kind of keep trailblazing with that because it's such a dope idea. But if it hadn't been for that experience and that rejection, and also kind of getting into the nitty-gritty of like what needed to be done before we could even think about commissioning and then doing proper startup, I wouldn't have landed in a position where I could do the maintenance course full time. I wouldn't even have known what maintenance planning really was. So while it sucked fucking big time at that time, I'm so grateful for it now because I love what I do, and I've been planning for 3 years now. It's very satisfying when I get to do proper planning. Yeah, no regrets. Honestly, everything kind of works itself out in very odd ways. So if you have been in similar situations, or you're in a situation right now where your job fucking sucks and you're not loving your company, you're not loving your role, you're not feeling appreciated, you know you're doing more work than you should be, just know that everything will come together. I hope you can hear that. That is rude interruptions, and it is fucking windy out there, man. Whoa. Anyway, please know that brighter days are coming. You need a little bit of rain in order for flowers to grow, right? But take the good from every situation that you find yourself in. Take the good from every rejection. There's so many cliches that we could use for this, but I really do believe everything does like happen for a reason, and there will always be something that you can look back on to be like, oh fuck, thank God that happened, because if it hadn't been for that, I wouldn't have done this. If I hadn't done this, I wouldn't be here. There's always good that can be found. That is the synopsis of how I transitioned from being a millwright or a mechanic into the maintenance planning. One of the shittiest rejections of my career, for sure. I don't love how they handled it. I think that they could have done a much better job and been much more professional and sat down and had a conversation with me about it instead of just terminating me. But again, if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have taken my course. If I hadn't taken my course, I wouldn't have had the tenacity to use that certification to get into the role that I'm in right now. Most of those like pivotal moments in my life have been almost accidental or come from something that was completely unexpected. Like, I originally wanted to be a psychologist, and then I got my first car, which needed constant maintenance and repairs, and I got super interested in why things were breaking and how to fix them when they break. So then that kind of led me into looking towards like the mechanic route, and then when I started looking at our community college's brochures to see what kind of mechanical programs they offered, I found like aviation mechanical engineering, but the other one that sparked my eye was diesel engine repair. Ended up going into that, absolutely loved it. Engines are my first love, they will forever be my first love, but got out of that, couldn't get a job anywhere, and applied at the Halifax shipyards as an engine fitter. Assumed it would be engines because that's what I went to school for. Nope, had to go into a millwright apprenticeship there. So again, just very like serendipitous, but so odd how things worked out. Nothing worked out the way that I thought it was going to. I sure shit didn't see myself doing what I'm doing right now 5 years ago or even 10 years ago. So it's kind of cool. Stay your path. It's never too late to change. I know we've gone over that before too. So if you do enjoy some of that background work, or you enjoy figuring out like asset reliability or what kind of programs you could create so that the assets are more reliable, like there's so many different branches that you can take from all these trades. Yeah, there's no shortage of shit to do. Never too late. And honestly, just try to find the fucking good and the bad. Like, have your wah moments. I for sure had my wah moments. You need to be able to get it out, but stick with it and look for opportunities in the challenges that come up. And really the worst that's going to happen is that you try something and then you fail. But I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think majority of my lessons have come from my failures. So you should have a couple weeks of consistent videos coming from me. Fingers and toes crossed. You'll see some cupcakes and crankshafts notifications coming up. Speaking of which, if you want to get those notifications, go ahead and subscribe. You can hit the little bell. I think people say that on here. Hit the bell to get notified when my new videos bother to come out. If you like this, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. I'm going to stop saying so that I know I'm on the right track, because I want to talk about what I want to talk about, and half the time y'all bounce after like 30 seconds anyway, so it really doesn't matter. Thank you for spending your time with me. If you have any questions, go ahead and comment down below. And again, if you're interested in like what life after your current trade position could be, oh my God, there's so many cool things that you can do with your career. So I will link the Lifetime Reliability Solutions course that I took down below. Maybe it'll spark some ideas for you, spark some interest, but there's so many resources out there. Have fun with it, man. It is tough being a woman in trades, but it is so fucking satisfying. So proud of all of you. Keep up the good work. Keep doing what you're doing. I hope you had an awesome week behind you. I hope the week coming up is fucking fantastic. And I'll see you on the next one. Bye!